Hi, my name is Earlene Grant. I'm the Director of Sales for the Georgia region, and I worked for Kaiser 19 years. It was the fall of 2010, and I remember it really clearly because it was at the heightened time of the year for us. It was our busy season. And I normally get infections, upper respiratory infections, so I knew what it was going into the season. I had been procrastinating going in, and so the weekend hit, and I just knew I couldn't deal with it anymore. And so I decided that I would call Kaiser, get an urgent care appointment, and go in. And when I got there, I saw a physician that was in the Southwood facility, because that's the facility that I chose to go to. And he greeted me, very kind. I immediately went in to share with him, hey, I have an upper respiratory infection. I know what this is. I've had it before. I was there to convince him that he didn't need to ask me all of these questions because I knew what I needed that day. But he surprised me because we didn't talk about my upper respiratory infection going into this meeting. The first thing he said to me was, well, Ms. Grant, I see that we've been trying to contact you. And I was like, about what? And he was like, I noticed that you haven't had your mammogram. And I immediately went, if this man doesn't get me the drugs that I need from an upper respiratory infection. But that was the defining and changing moment in my life. The physician shared with me, he goes, I looked through your medical record, Ms. Grant, and I've noticed that we've reached out to you in multiple ways, and you've not been responsive, and I just want to talk to you about that. Your health care and the quality of life that you live is extremely important to us. And I've noticed that you have a family history of breast cancer. So is there anything I can do to support you with that? And, I talked about being so busy and not having time to do it and, finding time in the evening times to call and make an appointment for the mammogram. And so he encouraged me. He says, if you don't mind, there's a phone right outside of this door. And would you mind calling and making an appointment for a mammogram? And I just thought, this man isn't going to let me get my upper respiratory drugs taken care of. So let me do that. And so I absolutely committed to doing that. So at the end of that visit, I went and made an appointment for a mammogram. And surprisingly, there was an appointment available the very next day on a Sunday at Southwood. And I went in for that mammogram. And within a matter of 2 to 3 days, I was having a conversation with someone at Kaiser that the mammogram came back abnormal and the need for me to have further testing. So I went in for an additional mammogram, and then we also did a biopsy. And I will say that process took within weeks, right? Within weeks, maybe a month or so, I was pretty clear on what I was faced with and what I needed to do. And that was my beginning journey of dealing with having breast cancer. I will say that once I received the diagnosis, and I'd heard about this because we tell prospects and members all the time that we've got some of the best care and we're going to sit you at a table and we're going to talk to you about how we're going to take care of you. But to actually experience it yourself was just breathtaking, just amazing for me. They said, you bring whoever you need to bring there, your circle of care. So for that treatment of care, plan of care meeting, it was my husband, my mother, and my sister. And my mother is a former breast cancer survivor. And so she was there and of course very interested in understanding what was happening with her daughter. And when we got to this meeting, we were in a room and we saw a group of doctors. I thought they were all doctors, but in essence, it was a nurse, some doctors. It was just the team of people that were actually going to take care of me. And it was extremely impressive that many people would take out time in their day to come have a conversation with me about what my care was going to look like for the next weeks to months. We were able to ask questions of our surgeon. We were able to learn more about the plastic surgery that I would be having. It was an amazing process. And I use that word amazing because my mother is a breast cancer survivor. And at the time, she was in her 60s, I believe. And I remember when my sister and I had to coordinate my mother's care. And we were living in Florida. She had traditional insurance. And the amount of research that my sister went through, and I was here in Atlanta, so I'm trying to do research as well. And we're trying to get referrals from neighbors and just different places to try to make sure we had the right team together for my mom. We needed an oncologist, a radiologist, we needed a plastic surgeon. It was just so many different doctors we needed. And there wasn't one person that just said, here's the list of doctors that you need to go to and allow them to take care of you. So to be in that room with that clinical team and for me to experience that, but from my mother to see that. I'll never forget when the meeting was over and we were walking to the car, the first thing my mom wanted to do was to make sure that I was okay. And I told her that I was. And then she said, I understood that you worked for a really amazing company, but I didn't quite understand it until I see this today. And my mother's a very strong person, but she actually teared up. And she was very transparent with me, and she shared, I was really concerned about making sure that we were going to be able to find the right doctors for you. And the company that you work for just gave me a level of confidence that you're going to be okay. And that meant the world to me.